Well, here we are fucking again. The freaking gun debate. If you don't know, there were horrible tragedies that happened in El Paso, Texas, and Dayton, Ohio, back to back. And my thoughts and condolences are to all those affected by these horrible, horrible tragedies. So before we get started, this is Divided Spectrum. I am Dash Ireland. And here like always on these types of videos I do now, I basically go unhinged, where I say what needs to be said basically. So let's get to the video. The main deal with this video is how the media and pretty much everyone on the left was quick to politicize this. And I'm going to say it now just so I can get it out of my system. Dear liberals, please stop fucking politicizing tragedies. Instead of jumping the gun, pun not intended, instead of jumping the gun to make this all about your fucking agenda, why don't you actually, for once, have some empathy? I mean, yeah, I have difficulties with empathy myself, but the thing is, I am on the autism spectrum. I am on the autism spectrum. You've got no fucking excuse. Like, the moment El Paso happened, they were so quick to jump on it. Like, because they went through social media, said, "Oh, this guy is a Trump supporter who is also a white nationalist." Let's say this is generally every Trump supporter, every person who is even remotely to the right is a terrorist. They're all white nationalists that need to be rid of. That's not true. Many people who voted for Trump were actually disenchanted liberals that were actually more center than they were left. And it's bad to generalize this stuff. Like, they want to complain about the right generalizing all transgender people as mentally ill. They want the right to stop generalizing all Muslims as terrorists. When, both of those things aren't true. A lot of while there are a handful of transgenders that are mentally, there are a lot of them that kind of have a genuine feeling there. Or it's because they jumped on a bandwagon. Because I've seen that with two people I went to high school with. And, of course, not all Muslims are terrorists. Not all Muslims are evil. I had a mentor who I believe was of Islamic faith, and he was one of the coolest people ever. Which reminds, I need to email him about playing some tennis. But, back to the main topic. So, they're always complaining about that, but they want to generalize every Trump supporter as a white nationalist. That every time there's a shooting, they always want to say it's a Trump supporter. New Zealand, yeah, that guy wasn't a white nationalist. He was a Muslim, I believe. Or I'm thinking of a Christchurch shooting. But the thing is, they wanted to quickly say that. Whenever there was that one shooting, where was it? South Carolina or something like that. They wanted to be quick and say, "Oh, this guy was a white nationalist." If I'm correct, the guy who did that was not white. And their narrative quickly went to hypocrisy because whenever Dayton happened back on Sunday, what happened is that it turns out that the Dayton shooter was actually a member of Antifa, which Antifa is a terrorist organization because they regularly commit acts of violence. If it was just a very small percentage of Antifa, then you wouldn't be able to say that Antifa is a terrorist organization. But because their groups regularly commit acts of violence, refer back to what happened to Andy No back on June 29th, then it's definite that you can say that Antifa is a terrorist organization. I hate Antifa. Like, they have no logic, and they're just a bunch of whiny crybabies. That's it. But anyways, and still in all this, they want to talk about banning guns. How the fuck is banning a gun supposed to do? This is just promoting the urge that we need to have more guns to protect ourselves. Because here's the thing. One thing that I've known is that one of the best defenses is a strong offense. And this mainly refers to guns. Here's the thing. Imagine that you're just walking down the street and a guy comes up to you with a knife. Either you have And usually with our open carry laws, you can carry a gun, and that will quickly make the guy with a knife piss his pants. That's generally fact. Because here's the thing: if someone with a weapon sees you with a weapon, knowing that you can defend yourself, they will, most of the times, they will not try. Gun control zones don't work. That's why the El Paso shooter doing it. Pretty much every mass shooter in the past 10 years, they have targeted gun-free zones because they know that that's where people legally cannot defend themselves. Like, they're not able to. And I support open carry. My state that I live in is big on open carry and concealed carry. And pretty much, all those slash films, they would have survived if they had guns in their homes. And I've seen so many Twitter reactions that are just so cancerous as to the whole deal with the gun control debate, which I've had to debate this in the past, and the people I've debated with are freaking idiots. Because they won't even acknowledge how bad they sound. Because I debated with this one person on Facebook, and they were talking about gun control and how they wanted to put in new gun control laws. And I pointed out the fact that they just acknowledged that gun control doesn't work because they want to put in new gun control laws. This is the literal definition of insanity, where you're proposing the same thing, hoping for a different result. That's all that gun control has been for the past 20 years. You put in gun control, it's not working, so you try and put in a new one, still not working. And Trump's being a fucking cuck about this, because he's talking, oh, we need to strengthen the background checks. What are they going to do? Background checks don't even show mental illness. This is a heart problem. And the only way you're going to defend yourself against a crazed gunman is if you can defend yourself. And they want to say, which is worse, some mentally ill person with a gun or a good guy with a gun? I don't even know whether they're drawing that comparison, because that's ludicrous. It is. And then I recently saw this Twitter post by someone who were like talking about how the Second Amendment was created whenever AR-15s weren't around. I'm like, of course they weren't around. We're talking about the 18th century. Well, part of the 18th century, part of the 19th century, whenever the Constitution was made. But the thing is, this wasn't about what kind of gun it was. It was about protecting people and protecting the country from tyranny. And they don't even understand. It's like the liberals, they're all about being anti-tyrannical, yet they want tyrannical stuff. After all, they're a bunch of fascists that don't want free speech if it doesn't agree with them, and they don't want guns. Yet, ironically, Antifa is talking about wanting to ban guns, yet they've talked about how they need guns to protect themselves. That's ironic. But this is, again, Antifa is a terrorist organization. And people don't understand, a gun is a tool in the right hands, but a weapon in the wrong hands. Because, let's face it, guns have not just been used for defense or offense. Guns have also been used as a tool for hunting. After all, we've been hunting deer and whatnot. But it's a weapon in the wrong hands. And the thing is, guns are not the problem. It is a heart problem. There are going to be good people in this world, and there are going to be evil people in this world. Yes, we do all wish that this evil that we do not want this evil to happen. We really don't. But the thing is, that's something in reality that just happens. Maybe people are desensitized to it. The thing is, if you want shootings to stop, maybe promote self-defense instead of promoting government power. Because what's the government going to do? You're talking about how the government won't do shit for you, yet you're putting all your faith into them. The government should have no power whatsoever. That's my libertarian ideology. They should have the least amount of power. Because let's face it, each time the government has been given power, they basically fucked it up even more. Anywho, and like I said, they're talking about like, oh, the Constitution was made where the AR-15 wasn't around, so obviously it needs change. And I'm over here like, what by shall not be infringed do you not understand? Like, they only care about their ideology, that they're not looking into it. They think that the Second Amendment is so better, that it only covers infantry rifles. It covers guns. And they're talking about how they should ban guns. Yet most shooters in this world, they were using guns that were banned in the country or state that they committed their horrendous acts in. It was already banned. That just shows the flaw in gun control and gun bans. And people are talking about like, oh, AR-15 is the assault rifle 15. No, it's the armor light rifle model 15. And the thing is, the AR-15 was never used in the military. The AR-15 was a gun designed specifically for home defense. I tell you, I fucking hate this type of debate because we have to do this every time there's a freaking shooting. And what makes me even more suspicious is how the media was quick to jump on it as soon as it happened, which makes me a bit suspicious about what happened in El Paso and Dayton. And even whenever the shooters don't fit their narrative, they just quickly forget about it, and they suddenly stop caring about their gun control logic. Because they drop it because they don't want the side to look bad. This is what I hate about the radical left and the radical right, is that they're so big on wanting their view or agenda to be right that whenever something does it that almost destroys them, they don't want to acknowledge it at all. Like I said, the Dayton shooter was an Antifa supporter. Remember that YouTube shooting that happened a long time ago? Either last year or 2 years ago? I can't remember. When that happened, turns out the shooter was an Antifa supporter who was also a woman. That didn't fit their agenda, so it was quickly forgotten. These things are only drawn out if it fits their narrative that the person is a white nationalist piece of shit. Yet it doesn't fit their narrative, and they quickly forget about it if it turns out that they're democratic or whatever. Like, this is bullshit identity politics at worst. And I'm getting tired of it. Because how about we stop talking about guns? The guns can't even kill people. They're an inanimate object. They're basically the first law of physics. They will not act unless something acts on it. See, oh my god. What happens is that it's not the gun itself, it's the person behind the trigger, what their intentions are, how screwed up in the head they are. That's the difference. Because every good person with a gun usually doesn't carry a gun really at all. They mostly just keep it stored so they can do target practice on their own leisure. Good people with guns, they usually only open carry if they really find a necessity for it. They're not going to go randomly shooting people because they're not deranged. They're just people that want to defend themselves in the case that they need to defend themselves. It's tyrannical to think that gun control would even work. You're not protecting democracy. You're not protecting people. You're just painting bigger targets on their backs. And gun bans don't even work because guns are not the problem. Ted Bundy didn't kill tons of women with guns. Most serial killers, they didn't like using guns because they were sadistic. They were sadistic psychopaths. Just look at Jeffrey Dahmer or Ed Gein. All those people. They were sadistic psychopaths who didn't use guns to commit their atrocities. So it tells you that the worst killers found ways to kill without having to use a gun. And this circle of violence didn't start with guns. Circle of violence has been around since Cain killed Abel. It's been that way for millennia. It's always been a heart problem. It's like trying to ban knives in England. Yet that is still not working out because people find a way to circumvent the law. That's just fact. Because if people really want to commit a crime, they're going to find what they can to commit a crime. And that's that. I am honestly sick of the gun debate every time there's a shooting. Can't we just, anytime this tragedy happens, can we just stop to think? Like, hey, this is a really bad act. Instead of dividing people over a freaking political agenda that's meaningless, why don't we work together and find some common ground where we can hope to not divide ourselves, promote unity, And if we could promote unity and not divide ourselves all the damn time, then maybe these shootings will happen. Because a lot of these shootings are because people are so divided on their ideology that they're going to violent ends. Looking at the white nationalists and Antifa, I condemn them both. The radical ends of the political spectrum, I condemn them. Because I am against any form of violence. I am a pacifist. But there's always that ideal that the only time I would ever fight is if it's in terms of actual defense, if I have to defend myself, if it's life or death. But in any other case, I am fully against violence. I've been that way my entire life as a pacifist. So yeah, what we need to do is stop focusing on guns. Guns shouldn't be the focus. Political agendas shouldn't be the focus. Focus is, okay, we're a divided country that's hurting from these tragedies that keep happening. And there's obviously some political motive behind these shootings. Instead of dividing ourselves, we need to unify. We need to talk, okay, obviously, this is bad. This person had some of their own political motives. We cannot go demonizing the entire group. Instead, we need to work together. We need to come together and say, hey, I respect your opinion. I respect your views. And I think that we should all accept and respect other people's views. And if we show that kind of love, maybe these shootings that happen will go down. If I come ground, because gun ban zones don't work. And stricter regulations aren't going to work. Hell, the background checks don't even work. Background checks look for criminal history, yet a lot of these mass shooters happen because they had mental illness and they never had a criminal record. Background checks do not show mental illness. That is another thing. Going further, a lot of these mass shooters, they're young, which is disturbing. And they want to blame heavy metal or gaming when that's not really the deal. Gaming is just an outlet for people's anger. It doesn't manifest into any real thing. It just manifests in strategic playing of games. But the real thing is that a noticeable trend is that shooters have actually grown up under a single parent household, usually single mother. And without a father's discipline, they're not going to turn out right. Most of the times in single parent households, the children usually don't come up right. That is part of not educational psychology, but just developmental psychology. And they want to talk about, oh, that's a bit, it goes against their gender ideology. Thing is, let's move away from postmodern gender ideology and all that bullshit. Let's just focus on the deal with the parents. You gotta have one father and one mother, because a father helps bring in the nurturing that baby needs that the mother can't satisfy. It just goes together. That is general psychology. And another thing is that with people being raised that they always have to be right or that they have to be some special snowflake, with parents that don't even care enough to watch them, I think that's mainly been contributing, because these kids, they don't get cared for by their parents and they're left with whatever demons are wallowing inside their head, and ultimately pushes them to the worst place imaginable. That's like coming from a place without love. If we can just promote love and unity and whatnot, maybe we can get this world back on track. But no one wants to do that. We just want to be hateful assholes that are always shoving each other. I hate it. And why would gun control even work? Chicago is a place where guns are banned, yet there are still shootings. It has one of the highest murder rates in the world. Not to mention, every place that has had a gun ban has suffered tyranny. I mean, just look at Nazi Germany. Many people died. And Germany had banned guns under their socialist regime. People are dying in England because of a gun and knife ban. Russia, back during the Bolsheviks and the communists, people were dying because Stalin was, well, he was the biggest asshole ever. Like, he was the worst dictator in the world, as he killed the most people. Like, if you looked at him wrong, Stalin would kill you. That's a place that banned guns. North Korea, guns are banned. People are forced hard labor or to work to death. Remember that one guy who messed with flags or whatever in North Korea and was sentenced to hard labor? He died. So maybe this isn't about guns. Maybe this is just called people are either good or they're evil. And this isn't going to get any better if we continue to divide ourselves. So once get your head out of your ass and just think we don't need any more division. We need to work together for once. But no, that's not something we want to do. We just want to divide people and say, hey, I want to be right. I want you to just accept that I'm right. I hate that. Because me, I'm willing to find common ground. I'm willing to work together with people. If you don't know, I've had discussions with one of my friends whenever we had to show Bring It to the Table back on the other channel that I make videos for. And we would debate different topics, and we actually managed to find common ground to agree on. That's how it should be. Whenever there's the idea of gun bills on, like a bill to allow open carry on college campuses, which I have my own things against that. Which, while I do support the Second Amendment, I think that open carry should be limited to people at least 21 years of age, because from a scientific standpoint, the brain is not fully developed until at least the age of 21. Before then, brains are still immature, and they can still be very, I don't know how to say the word, but their own feelings can work against them into something bad. And my friend kind of agreed on that. Because practically most college students are under the age of 21, and are already people are in bad places as they're mostly drinking or doing drugs. But on all, I really don't support that. But when it comes to a college campus, I don't really think you should carry a gun, really, because that's just a bit I just think you should at least be the age of 21. Because if you're still at that immature brain part, then I really wouldn't trust you that much. Like, Caitlin Bennett got so much shit for this, and she didn't do anything wrong. She just took pictures with her rifle. She didn't do anything. She just took pictures. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm pretty sure it wasn't even loaded either, because whenever you carry a gun, you cannot have it loaded. If you have a gun in your car, you can't have it loaded. That's illegal. And it's obviously gun safety. These liberals want to talk about it. Here's the thing. A lot of other atrocities with guns also wouldn't happen if there were gun safety, because there have been incidents where children accidentally either shot themselves or their parents or their other family. There needs to be gun safety. Like, 1, lock up your guns with locks that cannot be accessed. And if you have a key, put it in a place where your children can never find. Number 2, go to a gun safety course and learn the rest of it. Because all these leftists that talk about gun safety, they do not know anything about guns. They don't know how to handle guns. The reason why they want to ban guns is because they have no respect for them. And that's why their ideology does not work. I believe that practically all laws that go against guns are unconstitutional, because that's technically true, because the right to bear arms shall not be infringed. Yeah, keep them away from children. Keep them from immature brains. Keep them away from mentally disturbed people. Except people they want to classify mentally disturbed as being on the right sometimes, which that's wrong. I'm talking about mentally disturbed as in genuinely mentally disturbed. I wouldn't have trusted my jackass of an uncle with a gun, because he was very disturbed. So yeah, it's mainly about the gun safety. But can we please stop dividing each other and just work together to spread love and unity, so that we don't have to worry about shootings anymore, so that we can focus on healing the country. I don't think Trump caused this because this was going on before Trump, before Obama, before Bush. Because mass shootings started as an epidemic like around the time of Columbine, and that was bad. That was during the Clinton presidency. Trump didn't start all this evil. It's just that Trump pointed out the evil that is on both sides of the political spectrum. He's not increasing it. He's not even really a factor in it. He's just part. And whenever they're trying to say, well, what about these shooters that supported Trump? That's their own ideology. It's their own twisted belief. It's nothing to do with Trump. Trump is a very minor factor as to what happened in these shootings. So please stop. I am tired of talking about this bullshit. So yeah, this was the whole bullshit of the divided country, the mass shootings, and the politicizing bullshit. I've been Dash Ireland for Divided Spectrum. See you next time.